So, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good. How about yourself?
I'm great. Thank you again for allowing us to interview your story. I'm Chris. I represent Enlightened Archive. I'm also supporting Corey with Recognize Our Pride campaign on Instagram. My hope is that your story can highlight how and make more visible how people who are Black and queer exist in the D9 organizations. So thank you again for sharing your story. Okay.
Thank you.
So I first want to ask, so tell me more about yourself. Who are you? Where you're from?
Okay. So my name is Marjani. Some people call me Johnny. And I am a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. I've been a member since spring of 2012. I joined undergrad at the University of Michigan Flint. I am currently part of Theta Delta Sigma grad chapter of Sigma Gamma Rho in Flint. But I actually live in Saginaw, Michigan, which is about a 40-minute drive from Flint.
Okay.
But the reason why I chose that chapter was because that's where I pledged. That's home. So I pledged in Flint, so I had to join the Flint grad chapter.
Are you from Flint, Michigan?
No, not at all.
Where are you from? Where are you from, Johnny?
I'm originally from Detroit.
Okay.
But we moved because of my mom's job. She's retired now, but she worked as a manager of unemployment for the state of Michigan. So because of her job, we moved around a lot in Michigan. So I've lived a little bit of everywhere. So I can't really consider like one city per se my home.
Okay. So tell me about your experience being Black and queer. How you identify yourself?
So I identify myself as pansexual. And so for people that don't understand that, I like to say, I don't look at gender, I look at the heart. So whoever God and the universe brings to me, that's what it is. If I fall in love with a man, that's great. If I fall in love with a woman, that's great too. I don't have a preference. I don't look at their sexual gender. I look at here and I look at this. So.
And so is that easier or harder dating? Because I know sometimes people who are sexually fluid have a taboo against them sometimes.
It's harder dating, to be honest. And I hate to say it, it has unfortunately steered me away from men because it seems like just like when some women say that they're bisexual, people automatically look at that as they're a freak. And I mean like sexually, like they're a freak, they into all types of stuff, or they think that's a guaranteed ticket, that it's about to be a threesome or something, or a throuple or something going on. And a lot of guys don't take pansexual or bisexual as seriously. And so that can be really frustrating. It's been several instances where I've talked to men, and then that was what broke the camel's back. It was like, as soon as I told them my sexuality, it was like the dynamics changed. Because
has that been true since you figured out how you identified yourself, or has that been something more recent?
No, it's since I've identified myself. Definitely.
So, tell me about your inviting in story, your coming out story.
So I'm 33. I did not come out until I was 24, 25.
Okay.
And the reason being was because, so quick background, my mother is a Christian, AKA.
Okay.
And my dad is a Muslim noop. He's a Muslim.
A lot going on in your house.
Oh yeah. So a pretty girl and a pretty boy had a pretty poodle. And they're both very religious people. And both of them are like totally against homosexuality. They both believe, it's a sin, it's bad, it's abomination. So with that being said, for a really long time, I felt like I had to hide who I was to appease them, because they both were these very religious people and they didn't play that. So for years, I appeased both my parents and I only dated guys. I might have been intimate, you know, here and there with women, but as far as like serious relationships, it was only with guys. And it was more so to appease them because I knew that if I told them, hey, I'm bringing home a woman, all hell would break loose.
And
But
how did it feel to have to hide like that for so many years?
it didn't feel good at all. Because I feel like I couldn't be my full authentic self. But I don't know what I don't know, a light bulb clicked in. I just got to a point where I was like, I don't give a damn anymore. you know, it is what it is. I've always been a no filter, tell it like it is type of person. But unfortunately, that was one subject that I was really timid and hush hush about for a
Were there
really
any
long time.
that were safe for you growing up that allowed you to kind of talk about it or get support in?
It wasn't safe until I was older.
So,
Because as a kid, it was embedded in my head that you're going to hell. It's a sin. And I heard stories about Muslims who came out and they were murdered. They were stoned to death, beat to death, all types of horror stories. So that really detoured me from like, I'm not going to say nothing.
So then what? So what? You said the light bulb went off. So what moment would happen? So was it an instance? Was it a relationship? What happened that got you to be more audacious and be more courageous and
I
share?
was I was in a relationship with a
Okay.
woman, and the woman, was a stud, and she made a really valid point. She was like, how long do you think that we're supposed to keep this relationship a secret? How long do you think that I'm supposed to be with you and feel loved and accepted if you can't even tell your mom? And I was like, she's right. She's right. And that's not fair. That's not fair to her. So finally, I actually called my mom. I called her over the phone. I didn't tell her in person. I was like, Mom, I want you to know that I like women and I'm in a relationship with one. And the first thing she thought was, dang, you switched over to women. What did the male community do to you? They hurt you? And I was like, a lot of them did hurt me, yes. I said, but no, that's not why. And then the second thing she said was, oh, it's a phase. And I'm like, phases are for kids and teenagers, in my opinion. I don't
That's
feel like
real. How did that feel being
I don't
dismissed?
feel like grown ass men and women should be in phases. So for her to say you're in a phase, I was like, okay. And
How
as
did
the years, I'm sorry, you blanked
how did
out.
it
I
feel
couldn't hear
being
you.
dismissed that way?
You said, how did it? I'm sorry, you still broke up. How did it
How did
feel?
it
What?
feel dismissed that way?
To be accepted that way?
Dismissed that way.
Oh, dismissed. I'm sorry. Um, it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good at all. At first it didn't bother me. I was like, okay, it's one thing about me as a person in the LGBTQIA community. I've never been one to flaunt my sexuality. I've never been the type of person to um try to convince people to accept me and who I am. I've just never been that person. So I say that to say, like, I just figured, oh, maybe, she'll come around. And eventually she did. She did come around. Does she agree with it? No. But she's learned to accept it. Uh, but for the longest time, she said I had a demon. And so that really,
Sounded
um,
hurt.
that hurt too, because I'm a very spiritual person, especially coming from two parents with completely different religious backgrounds. So I'm a very spiritual person. So for her to say that, like, it did really hurt. But I have an awesome relationship with God, and I truly believe in my heart that there is a place for me in heaven, and that who I am is not hurting or harming anybody else.
So how did you build community in this season, right? From 25 to 30 or 4, how did you build community? Because it's hard. It's hard to
Yeah.
deal with isolation or dealing with like internalized homophobia. Like it's all that stuff is hard to deal with. You get a lot going on, right? Afro-Latina, Christian, Muslim, there's a lot going on in your house.
Mm-hmm.
How did you build community?
The internet.
Okay, say more.
The internet. I had I was a part of like groups and things on Facebook and Instagram,
Okay.
such as this. And just networking. Like I said, I've never been one to just boast and just say, hey, I'm gay. Like if you ask me, I'll tell you, but it's not just something that I just throw on people. Because for one, I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable if they are against that, or if they are still in the process of learning about it and trying to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have very supportive, it's one thing I love about my sorority. They are allies for the LGBTQI community. And I have so many sorors that identify as queer, and I love it.
Let's talk about that. So you grew up in AKA in a Kappa household, and you chose to get SG What sparked your interest in SG?
So to be honest, my mom had like embedded in my head pink and green, pink and green.
Of course you did.
And when I got to college, I tried to, go to their events and be present, but I hate to say it, they put a really bad taste in my mouth. A lot of them weren't very friendly or sisterly or welcoming. And a lot of times, like I remember when I was a freshman and I had went to they had like the Greek picnic, Greek outing, where it's like everybody had the tables and everything. And I remember I went up to their table and I was like, hi, I'm Marjani. And I was like, my mom's an AKA. And they looked at me like, and so you not. So I was just like, okay. And I would experience that either from like seasoned older old heads, so AKA sorors too. And I just was like, dang. And I did my research, and like, not trying to bash other organizations. It was just a lot of things that I didn't like. One thing that stood out that deterred me away from joining her sorority was, AKA was known for doing a brown paper bag test.
Okay.
And they would hold a brown paper bag up to your face. And if you were not the same color or lighter, they didn't want you.
Yeah.
And so that's a shame that you are racist against your own race and prejudiced against your own race. And I honestly didn't want to be affiliated with anything like that. And just seeing the girls on campus, I just felt like they didn't really express having a sisterhood. I don't want to fake the funk. I don't want to act like I like you in person, and then behind closed doors, I'm calling you everything but a child of God. Okay. And so with Sigma Gamma Rho, I did my research. I like the fact that it was founded by 7 Christian school teachers. I like the fact that they were founded at a predominantly white institution. So they definitely had a struggle compared to being at a HBCU. Okay. And I liked their morals and their values. A lot of times you get people will say that sororities and fraternities are demonic. And I never got that. I never felt that one time with Sigma Gamma Rho.
That's dope. So when you, in your journey of being queer, how was it sharing your life with your ancestors in your chapter?
Oh, they were like totally for it. They were very understanding, and they would even encourage it. They was like, yeah, girl, it's all right, Sans. Love is love. And I'm like, okay. So that was a blessing for me because, I was scared at first because when I pledged, it wasn't, well, that I knew of, it wasn't really a lot of queer sorors. Like, this is like a new wave of them just coming out the woodwork, and I love it. But when I pledged, it was not a lot of queer people, period, that was joining.
Or even on your campus?
You said what?
Even on your campus, there weren't any.
Yes, even on my campus, there was on my campus, there was no D9 members that were affiliated with the LGBTQ. They might have been advocates, or they might have had a family member, but
Yeah.
them per se, no.
And then did that deter how you express interest? I know some people don't even seek entry into these organizations because of their visible queerness or their conflict with their queerness.
Well, yeah, because that's another thing. When I first was researching my organization, one thing that was always said was founded by 7 Christian school teachers. Christian, Christian, Christian. So I'm like, oh shit, I can't I can't come up in here with the rainbow flag or the pansexual flag. Like, yeah, hear me roar, because I didn't want to offend anybody or anything, especially since my sorority does do like a lot of Christian based events and things. Like, we would do events like praising with the poodles, or you go to church, with us and things of that nature. So I didn't want to look like a hypocrite, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So I was at first really quiet and like low key um about that. And then when I first joined the organization, I was actually in a relationship with the guy who ended up pledging Iota Phi Theta.
Okay.
So yeah.
So it was easier to not talk about it.
Yeah, I didn't have to talk about it because I was in a heterosexual relationship. So not to say that it wasn't on the back of my mind, but it was easier to seek through the cracks, I guess you could say.
Was it also receptive of you being Afro-Latina? Because I wanted to, we always talk about otherness and
Hmm.
and sometimes being Afro-Latina or Latina in the organization too is perceived the same way people perceive people who are queer.
Yeah, because you have some people that be like, okay, well, this is supposed to be a Black Greek letter organization,
You are
and
Black,
it's
so
like, I
yeah,
am Black,
yeah.
but I'm also Dominican, so I'm going to represent both, and that shouldn't be an issue. And that's another thing I can say that I love about my sorority is, even though it was founded, by Black women, it has in a sense become very multicultural,
Okay.
because I have sorors of all different races: Russian, German, Mexican, Chinese, like all. And I love it. I love that it's inclusive.
That's dope. So your experience being queer in organization has been good, and you built community. So where do you feel the most safe and proud?
Oh, that's a good one. To be honest, I feel safe and proud everywhere but church.
Okay, say more.
And the reason being is because, once again, like I said, I don't like to force anything on anyone, and it's like I am very comfortable with who I am, but in that setting, not so much.
Okay.
Um and I don't know if it's because I feel like, even though I may not say anything, I be feeling like people are psychic in church or something. Like, they just know. They just know what I am and who I am. And they're like,
Yeah.
they just in their mind, they just grilling me like she's just in here sinning. So I don't know. But everywhere else, like, I feel comfortable. I feel like I could be my authentic self. I actually just recently came out at my job, because I didn't even tell my coworkers
Okay.
um about it, because just from off of conversations, you could tell so much about a person just off of conversations without even telling your business and life story. And it
Okay.
was like, this a lot of the conversations that we had let me know that they weren't really into all of that. And so I would keep quiet about that. But one day my girlfriend had actually came up to my job and brought me lunch. And that's how the ice broke, because my manager was like,
Who's
is
this?
that your partner? And I was like, and it threw me off. She was like, is that your partner?
Yeah.
And I was like, yes. So that kind of that broke the ice. And after that, I was like, okay, everybody knows it's okay. Okay.
And do you feel more free, more full being out in the world as a openly Black queer person?
I do. And I thank America for that, because if you go to other countries,
Mm-hmm.
it's bad. You go to certain parts of Africa, they're putting people in prison
Mm-hmm.
for being gay. You go to certain parts of the Middle East, they're stoning people. They're burning people alive
Mm-hmm.
for being gay. So that makes me feel blessed and safe to know that I'm in a country where it is okay for me to be me and not be penalized for it. Not necessarily saying that I might not be discriminated against, but discrimination and actually physically being penalized are two completely different things.
There you are. Last two questions. What brings you the most joy about being Black and queer?
I guess it would be like what I just said, the fact that I could be myself, um, that people accept me for who I am.
Okay.
Um, my sexuality has nothing to do with my personality and my character. Like, I'm a very likable, lovable person.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people gravitate to me, and it's a beautiful thing. And I just love that people do not let my sexuality get in the way of having friendships, relationships, workships, whatever kind of ships,
What
with
kind of
me.
tips? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is one thing you hope the D9 NPHC can do to support people who are Black and queer in D9 organizations?
I think that it would be nice if people that define themselves as transgendered could join um, D9 organizations. I don't think I wouldn't say necessarily fair, but like if someone wants to join a sorority, and even though at birth they were born a boy, but they've been through the whole sex change, taken hormones, even had like surgeries or so have you, and they identify themselves as a woman, I mean, they're already given some rights to that. So why can't they have the right to join whatever organization it is that they want to join? I actually have a friend now who identifies as transgendered. He was born a woman, but he identifies himself as a man, and he wants to be a part of a fraternity, a
Mm-hmm.
Black fraternity at that. He's
Which one?
Mexican. He didn't say which one, but he said that he wanted to just overall he wanted to be a part of a Black Greek letter organization. And I was trying to do research for him and everything, and I know there's it's a Latino fraternity that
Okay.
I think it's Sigma Lambda Beta, I think it is. And they do accept
Trans-
transgender. So I do wish that that would be nice if the D9 took on that as well and allowed people to be themselves. Like, don't be a hypocrite. Don't say that you are inclusive and accept LGBT people and that you're allies for them, but then when one of them wants to join your organization, it's a
But
problem.
do they say they're outlaws? I don't. Everybody, all D9 don't doesn't promote inclusion that way. They only started doing it on social
The
media.
old doesn't, yeah, it is fairly new. Like I said, it was because like I said, when
And
I
social
pledged,
media is the same thing as policy
you're
uh,
right. And
or
you're
even
absolutely,
because
yeah,
I
you're
just
absolutely right.
like trans to come in to organization and I wonder if it's safe, right?
True.
And I don't know how safe they will be, physically safe, um, and walking around with letters on or going to social events or even intake in certain places. So yeah, I think the idea is though. I just wonder and worry about safety, physical safety.
I agree, but that's already an issue now for men that identify as gay that are part of
True.
For Black fraternities. What about their safety? They might have some frat brothers, they don't care if they wearing the same letters as them. They feel like that's what you're doing. I'm not with that. I don't accept that. I don't
Yes, but
condone that.
on average, most cis Black gay men who present masculine or who don't perform gender in a way that's feminine or different, they are still safe because they can blend in, right? And that doesn't impact their ability to get intake, right? If they pass, if they were more openly queer, I don't know as many people who openly queer across undergrad. Most of the people who openly queer, visibly queer, across grad chapter, and a lot of them also present masculine, present as cis. Trans is a more hard thing because you present in gender a different way. So I don't know.
Yeah. I know two Black men that are openly gay that
Mm-hmm.
are in the same fraternity,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both members of Phi Beta Sigma, and they are very flamboyant and openly. They are not masculine at all. But that does make me wonder, did they hide that to get in and
A lot
then
of
become themselves? So you
a
never
lot of
know.
people
It's like,
no. But I mean, you shared earlier, right? Like there was a season of
mhm,
hiding because it wasn't safe, right? You grew up in
right,
a emotionally unsafe environment because of religion. So a similar thing happens for Black gay men. I'm just saying, and that was
right,
the instance, right? Like
right,
gender performance is a big deal for especially for men. And when you can present the gender performance a way that makes you look a certain kind of way for intake purposes, it's a little bit easier.
right. I agree.
Talking about bring somebody trans into the room for intake, that it may not be safe. It may not be safe for somebody
True.
who is trans to
Yeah.
come in. It's harder. But anyway, I want to thank you again for your time. Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you.
It was great meeting you. Um, where you want people to follow you, learn more about what you're doing, what you're going through.
You can follow me on Facebook, Johnny Jani Royal Rhoyal Savage, or you can follow me on Instagram at Marjani Marjani _the _Lotus.
Well, thank you again, Christopher Stalling, representing the Life Archive, and on behalf of the Recognize Our Pride Instagram page, we want to thank you again for sharing your story.
Thank you.